Shabbat Shalom. There's a beautiful teaching, one of my favorite teachings, that comes from our Torah portion this week, which speaks of the seemingly mundane or topic that's difficult to relate to, in that it's about the tabernacle, about the Mishkan. It's about something that we don't have in our own lives anymore. And yet, the relevance of these teachings is something that's important for everyone. The Talmud says that when Moses was commanded all the different parts of the Torah, that there were three in particular that he had difficulty understanding. And one of those three is in this week's Torah portion, in which he is told to make the menorah, the candelabra that would be there in the tabernacle and later on in the holy temple. And the Talmud says that Moses had a good deal of difficulty understanding this commandment to build the menorah, to the point that God actually had to show Moshe what the menorah looked like. This is the way it's supposed to be. And not only that, there's a midrash that says that God not only had to show Moses, but had to perform a miracle and said, Moses, just take that block of gold and throw it in the fire. And a miracle occurred, and out came the tabernacle, out came the menorah. And the questions asked, and many of the commentators say, well, what was the challenge that Moshe faced? Why did he have difficulty with the menorah in particular? And an answer that's offered, a very straightforward answer, is because part of the commandment for the menorah is that it be made out of one block of gold, that every detail of this intricate object, of this candelabra, of this menorah, which held the lights, had to be made from one block of gold, which is counterintuitive. That's not how one makes typically, as I understand, I'm not an expert in this, but that's not the way that one constructs a menorah of this type, of this intricacy, is not from one block of wood, but rather from a number of different pieces that are ultimately put together to form the whole. And so Moshe had difficulty conceptualizing how would that take place, and therefore God had to show him and the miracle, and voila, there's a menorah, and it's beautiful, and it's majestic, and it's the way it's supposed to be. And the question is asked, it's a very powerful question, that there's another detail that we're told about the Aron, about the ark, and on top of the ark were what's known in Hebrew as the Cherubim, the Cherubs, which were made out of gold, and they were in the image, famously, as our tradition teaches, that they were in the image of children, of two children kind of facing one another. They were connected at the bottom, but they were reaching out towards each other, and the wings spread out, and with the faces of children. And the commandment is, when it comes to these Cherubim, that it was to be made out of one piece of gold. And yet there's no tradition that Moses had difficulty with this. There's no tradition that Moses went to God and God said, here's how you do it, and God threw the piece of gold into the fire and out came the cherubs, a miracle. There's no tradition. And the question is, why is that? And one answer that I heard a number of years ago, which has stayed with me, is that the Cherubim, the cherubs, represent the children. And when it comes to other objects, other rituals, you can throw something into the fire and out comes, and a miracle can occur, and God can make it all complete. But when it comes to raising children, and when it comes to education, there are no shortcuts. There are no miracles that we can rely on that can produce a finished and final product that we're proud of. Education, investing in next generation, that takes hard work. That takes time, that takes effort, that takes intentionality. That takes a design, a plan. It's not something that we can just look to God and say, God, make it happen, perform a miracle, and there it is. And that's what the cherubs represent. It's something we think about. How do you take the material, and how do you produce a finished product of a Jew, of a woman or a man who is somebody who is honest and upright, of somebody who makes their family and their community proud? How do you get from a baby, which has basically no attributes, that is there to receive, that is there to learn. To a child, to a teenager, to an adult, how do you get from one stage to the next? And the answer is, there are no shortcuts. There are no miracles. And that's what our community is all about. It's about putting in those efforts. It's about teaching from the Aleph Bet all the way up to the more sophisticated teachings. But being invested in that and understanding that work and growth, it all takes time. There are no shortcuts and no miracles. And part of being a Jew is being willing to put in the time and having patience and knowing that only through our hard work will we achieve the results that we desire. Wishing you a Shabbat Shalom.